Well, hello everybody. What follows is a look around the garden and the hoop house at the end of July here, and also some clips that I took when I was making some lacto-fermented pickles out of my daikon, radish, and garlic scapes, which turned out fairly well. I'm still aging them some in the fridge before I really get into them and start eating them, but I've tested them 2 or 3 times. And then finally, I guess it's just to look at some of the things which are in bloom here again. Well, I don't know if the potatoes are ready to harvest or not, but I'm about to find out. It doesn't make sense, I guess, to go buy new potatoes in the store when you've got some growing in the garden. So I'll give it a try and see what I find under them. The variety here is Yukon Gold. Well, that's not too bad. That's from one plant. It's it's kind of early in the season, I guess, too. But anyway, that's more than enough for a meal. Well, those are those little cucumber plants that I transplanted in here a couple of weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. Lots of blossoms, and I seem to see almost entirely female blossoms. So I'm not certain if this is one of those F1 hybrids that doesn't require pollination or not. It's a pickling cucumber, so I haven't noticed any of the little green cucumbers turn yellow and fall off yet, so I'm keeping an eye on it to see what's happening. I'm not leaving the door open so that bees can get in. A certain amount get in anyway, but I'm afraid if I leave the door open I'll also get the cabbage moths in here, destroying all the brassicas. The cauliflower have continued to grow nicely. They're supposed to be a self-blanching variety, which should mean that the green leaves grow up and cover the curd, the cauliflower. This doesn't seem to be happening, and they are a bit yellow, but my dirty hand in there to give you an idea of the size. They're a fair size, and I think I want to pickle them. I'm keeping an eye on them to make sure they don't all of a sudden bolt and start to bloom, but they get a little bit bigger. I'm going to pick them and try making some cauliflower pickles. Very strange looking broccoli still hasn't blossomed or anything, but I'm going to pick the 3 strange looking heads and have them before they do start to bloom. Weirdest looking stuff. Anyway, I'm sure it will be good. As you can see, this one here, starting out like an ordinary head of broccoli, so maybe now that the temperature has cooled down a bit in here, that the rest of it's going to produce normally. But this smells and tastes, I've broken off a few pieces, like ordinary broccoli, but it certainly looks different. Carrying on here, I guess I'm just harvesting enough vegetables to have dinner this evening. This is one of the larger beets, but they are starting to get some size to them. I guess I'm probably going to have to harvest all of them soon and do my pickled beets. I don't want them to get woody or whatever in the center, which I guess can happen if they get too big, but this one will go nice with dinner this evening. Well, the bell peppers at last are starting to produce, and also the hot, I forget what they're called. You have to look at the list down below again, but the hot peppers, the yellow ones, they're starting to produce on a couple of plants too. I'll give you a shot of those in a minute, but to give you an idea of the size of this, it's not very big yet, but there are a number of smaller ones. I think I have 3 or 4 of these plants. It looks like I'll get a bell pepper or 2 out of it. Sort of hidden in amongst the foliage there, but the variety I just recalled is called Hot Hungarian Wax. I've had 2 or 3 of them, used them in stir fries and whatever. Well, nice flavor to them, but they're a bit disappointing as far as heat goes, at least so far. I haven't noticed any great amount of heat. These are the recently transplanted, newer tomato plants, all except for the indeterminate, the variety. So this is 2 varieties. One is a ordinary shaped tomato and one is Roma. The thing I'm doing differently this time, even though they are determinate, I'm pruning off the sucker growth. And already, I don't know if it'll show there anywhere, but already they're starting to bloom. So hopefully that means I might get some better fruit off of these. I'll swing you around and show you the other ones down back here. Large plants, almost no tomatoes. A lot of very tiny ones which may eventually size up, but another disappointing year with me with tomatoes. I don't know, I'll keep trying, I guess. But I think I really should have pruned them. I thought where they were determinate varieties that it wouldn't be necessary, but I think it should have been done. And on the left, those are the brassicas that I transplanted in here a few weeks ago as tiny little seedlings. Some of them sort of leaned over in strange directions, but they're growing very nicely. And I guess you can't see it hiding in behind there. Is that second kohlrabi that I didn't harvest. It's as big now or bigger than the one that I did harvest, so it'll be coming out soon. Hopefully that's focused in on the black currants. I have 4 black currant bushes. 3 of them are been here for 2 years and one's been here for 3 years. They've all got quite a bit of fruit on them, which I've got to get picked before the robins discover the fruit and it's gone. I'm not sure if there's enough fruit to make a small batch of currant jam or not, but I'm going to give it a try. The bean tower is being climbed. Some of them have actually made it all the way to the top. They are at varying heights because of the problem that I had with getting beans to germinate, all the wet weather this spring. I planted 3 different times in this same patch, so there are beans that came up at 3 different times. They're not all to the top yet, but looks like it's going to happen. Well, to close off this section, I'll give you another look at these winter squash. I'm very pleased so far. You can see or not. They're supposed to be, what did they call them? Semi-vining, which I've never heard dealt before. Squash either come in bush varieties or vining varieties, and these were called semi-vining. Well, as you can see in the background there, one of the semi-vining ones is climbing a tree. And that's a female blossom I see on it this morning too, so I've got to get over in there and make sure it gets pollinated. I've been hand pollinating. I suppose the bees have pollinated some too, but I want to make sure that they get pollinated, so I've been hand pollinating them. I'll give you a little look at a cluster of 3 of them. I have no idea how many are there because of the leaves. I don't want to stomp around in there, but I'm quite certain all the ones that I hand pollinated have succeeded. A cluster of 3 hiding down here in these leaves. I'm not quite sure that I have that aimed at the right spot, but they're about half the size that they should be, and they're growing daily, so I'm really quite pleased with my winter squash. There's this morning's harvest. The white cucumber, if you watch my previous videos where I've mentioned it, is completely inedible, and that will be given to the chickens. We'll see whether or not they can eat the thing. I know I can't, it's far too bitter. But those little green ones, and that one's a bit on the large size, they are delicious. They're a bit smaller than that. There's just enough to make one very nice sandwich, and they're very crisp and sweet. Anyway, a little look at some of the things in bloom around here, and I'll close this down. Thank you very much for watching. I'm just getting set up to do some lacto-fermented garlic scapes and daikon radish. slice the daikon radish relatively thickly on the mandolin that you see there in the background. And Elise Joseph did scapes, lacto-fermented them, so I thought that's something different I'll try with my scapes this year. I usually dehydrate them and make a powder out of them through the food processor or a blender or something, and turn them into a powder. That's very good in rice, but I'm going to enjoy them lacto-fermented as well. Just a few little clips I'll put together here and then show you what they look like in the jar. Even though the daikon have been stored in the basket in my basement for I think more than 2 weeks now, they're still very firm. All I did was wash them and then I peeled them. And I'll just that gives you some kind of idea, I guess, of what they're like. I'll quit before I show you cutting off one of my fingers. I've never seriously cut myself on the mandolin, but I've managed to nick myself on it several times. Well, that's the 2 jars that I plan to do packed. One's a wide mouth jar and one is just a standard mason jar, both I think about liter size. The brine that I have used, you can use a brine anywhere from half a tablespoon to a tablespoon of salt per cup of water. I've gone a little strong. Mine's close to a tablespoon of salt per cup of water. And the important thing is to use either a kosher salt or a pickling salt, because ordinary table salt has iodine in it, and the iodine will turn your preserves brown. You have to be careful with sea salt too. Sea salt, if it's just pure sea salt, is fine, but I managed to buy some at Costco and almost used it and noticed that the sea salt has been iodized. Anyway, it's important to keep the vegetables below the brine. And what I'm going to use for that purpose, I guess they're little egg cups. I've had them for many, many years. And somebody on my previous lacto-fermentation videos, I did some in small jars like this, and they didn't, but the gas escaped very well, and some person commented to put the cover in upside down with the rubber side facing up rather than down so that it won't seal. And that makes sense, at least to me. And no, you don't want to tighten them at all, not very tight. Because these I know will produce a lot of gas. And you want to make sure that it escapes. You don't want to have exploding jars. Now these should sit in Fahrenheit. They should sit somewhere between 60 and 70 degrees. What would that be? Between 15 and 20 degrees, I guess Celsius, somewhere in that area. And for 5 days. At the end of 5 days, you can taste them, and hopefully you've got the fermentation flavor that you want. After that, you refrigerate them, and that they continue to improve in the refrigerator over several weeks. The flavor intensifies and whatever. So I will give you a look at these maybe in 5 days' time. Sorry about that last clip. It really wasn't showing what I was hoping I was showing you. The little egg cups, salt dishes, whatever they are, that I sort of used as a follower to hold the radish and the scapes under the brine. Well, it's now a week later. They've been just down in my basement at rather cool room temperature down there, but not refrigerated or anything, for a week. And I think I'm going to now remove the follower thing that I put on top, hopefully give you a better look at what I did this time, and refrigerate them. The brine is still nice and clear, but if you let them continue to ferment at room temperature, it will begin to get cloudy, and I guess a stronger flavor. You can still eat it, whatever, but I like to have the nice clear brine on them. So let's give them a taste and see what they're like at this stage. This is the gizmo that I was trying to show you the last time. It's just a little pottery egg cup or whatever. held them down under the brine. There's a nice aroma coming out of there of daikon and the garlic. They're a little bit softer than they were when I put them in. And they are developing a very nice taste. So I'll put them in the refrigerator for a few more weeks before I try them again. At this time I'll also turn the seal over so that I shouldn't have any problem with more gases, especially in the refrigerator. But if they do, I'll open them up periodically just to make sure.